I'm about to show y'all 4 of the most delicious broccoli recipes. Yes, I said broccoli. And stick around because one of those recipes is a copycat Panera recipe. There are so many different ways that you can make broccoli taste delicious. The 4 recipes that I'm going to show y'all how to make today can all be found on our FreezerFit.com website, and they are oh so delicious. Number 1 is a cheddar broccoli fritter. Let me show you how I make these. The first thing I do is get out a baking sheet, line it with some wax paper. That way I have a place to set my fritter once it is formed. I used 4.5 cups of broccoli florets, and I went ahead and used a food processor. That way I could get them into like small, tiny rice-sized pieces. It's really going to help your fritter get that great shape. Then I added a tablespoon of minced garlic, salt, onion powder, paprika, and black pepper. 3 eggs and 3/4 cup of almond flour, or you can use whatever flour of your choice. I use my blender to kind of mix everything together and blend it really well. When you're doing this, you want to make sure you're scraping the sides down. That way you can get all of those ingredients incorporated and mixed up really well for your next step in this recipe, which will be to be forming that fritter, and you want to make sure they're not touching. Once you have all your fritters formed, I go ahead and put plastic wrap over the top of these and put them in my freezer for about 40 to 50 minutes until those patties are able to retain their shape. Now at this point you can put them into your freezer bag to cook at a later time, or go ahead and cook these if you would like. There are 2 ways to cook these, and I'm going to show y'all one way today, which is oven baking them. You can also fry these up on the stovetop. I made these both ways and they taste delicious. Since I am baking these straight from my freezer bag, I'm going to preheat my oven to 400 degrees and bake these for about 40 to 50 minutes, and you want to make sure you are flipping these halfway through so they are cooked all the way through and you get that golden and crisp edge on the very outside. I went one step further and used a heart-shaped cookie cutter to cut those fritters out for my kids. That's a little mom hack I use to help my kids eat broccoli. Number 2 is a broccoli cheddar breakfast quiche. For this recipe, I used 8 eggs, 2/3 cup of heavy cream, 3 cups of broccoli florets, 1.5 cups of a cheddar cheese shredded up, a 1/2 cup of diced onion, and some salt and pepper. If you're making this for kids or your grandkids, I recommend chopping that broccoli up just a little bit more. That way you can get those broccoli down to a smaller bite size, and you can really get everything mixed up really well that way. When I'm making this dish, I like to mix up my eggs with the ingredients completely before I put in the heavy cream. That's just something personally I like to do. That way I know my egg mixture is really incorporating all those ingredients together. Once you have all your ingredients mixed up really well in that large bowl, you want to pour that into a greased 9x13 baking dish. Now at this point, you are welcome to go ahead and bake it, or if you want to save it for a later date, go ahead and cover it in plastic wrap and make sure you're sealing that really tight, and also cover it with aluminum foil so it is prepped and ready to go for your freezer. Then I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. Now since I am baking this fresh, or if you bake this from like a thawed texture, you want to bake this uncovered for about 25 to 30 minutes and then let it rest for about 5 minutes before serving. Now I love to serve mine with the sour cream or freshly chopped chives or extra cheddar cheese on top, because we all know cheese is delicious. If y'all are loving these recipes so far, make sure you are subscribed to our channel and like this video, and comment below your number 1 favorite broccoli recipe that you love eating or your family loves eating. My number 1 tip for making a broccoli dish taste delicious is pair it with some sort of cheese. All 4 of our recipes today do have some sort of cheese in the recipe, which helps it taste delicious, and they just pair so well together. Here is the final result of that breakfast quiche. That looks delicious. Now this was cooked in my 9x13 greased baking dish. I did bake this uncovered, and now I'm going to let it sit here for about 5 minutes before I serve it up. But look at this, y'all. It is so delicious. It turned out perfectly. This recipe is great because you get that like a golden crispy edge, but it is not going to stick to the bottom of that baking dish, which if any of y'all know is really hard to do. If you're ever baking a dish that has eggs in it, how many times has it got stuck to the bottom of your baking dish? So make sure y'all are using that nonstick spray and following this recipe. That way your quiche is going to turn out just as delicious and aesthetically pleasing as ours. You can also see the difference in chopping up those broccoli florets just a little bit more to get that excellent bite-sized piece. Number 3 is our copycat Panera broccoli cheddar soup. Oh, so delicious. For this recipe, you'll need a pound of broccoli florets chopped up, 1 yellow onion diced up, 3 cups of chicken broth, a cup of shredded carrots diced up, cayenne pepper, and salt and pepper. And all those ingredients are going to go in a freezer bag. And the other ingredients you will need on the day of cooking this is 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of half and half, and 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. You can keep your broccoli florets whole if you'd like, or you can pulverize them like I do in my blender. I find that my kids are more likely to eat this if I get that broccoli like really shredded up. I am making mine just on the stovetop today, so all I'll need to add to this is just that 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, and 2 cups of half and half. Or you can use whole milk if you would like. And if you're cooking this on a stovetop like I did, I just bring everything to a boil for a couple minutes. That way everything is just kind of mixed up really well together, and then it will be ready to serve. You can also make this in the Instapot. So once you have your freezer bag thawed out, you can transfer those contents into an Instapot. You will want to cook it on manual for high pressure for about 4 minutes and then do a quick release. After the quick release, then you can stir in your half and half and shredded cheddar cheese and just turn it to that saute function just to heat it all the way through. So those are 2 different ways to cook this recipe, whether you choose the stovetop or Instapot. This copycat Panera broccoli cheddar soup is going to be a huge hit in your household. I also like to serve mine with a saltine cracker or oyster cracker and top it with extra cheddar cheese. Number 4 is a pesto broccoli quesadilla. Out of all 4 recipes, this is the easiest one to make, and it only requires 4 ingredients. So not only is this broccoli dish going to be delicious, but it's also going to save you so much time and money since it's only using 4 ingredients. Those 4 ingredients are 3 cups of broccoli florets finely chopped up, 6 cups of a shredded mozzarella cheese, 6 flour tortillas, and 3/4 cup of a basil pesto. You want to start by laying out your tortillas on a baking sheet, and I start by using like a couple tablespoons of the pesto on 1/2 of the tortilla. And you can play around with this recipe a little bit. If you want a little less pesto, use a little less. If you want a little more, add a little bit more. The key is to making sure you're just doing the pesto and then the cheese and then the broccoli on top. And you want to make sure that you're keeping all of these ingredients on 1/2 of that tortilla. That way, once you have all of your ingredients, you can just fold the tortilla in half and then place a piece of parchment paper on top of that. When I'm putting this into my freezer bag, I'm making sure that I am using that parchment paper. That way the quesadillas are not going to stick together when I'm taking them out of the bag. That also gives you the option whether or not you want to go ahead and cook all 6 quesadillas, or if you're just cooking for yourself or you and one other person for that night, you only have to take out like 1, 2, or 3 quesadillas. That way you're saving yourself some time and some money by bulk freezer cooking. Now there are 2 ways that you can cook these. You can cook them in the oven, or I'll fry them up on the stovetop. I wanted to show y'all the end result. If you do bake these in the oven, you're going to bake them at 400 degrees for about 10 minutes. And that is how they turned out, delicious with just a light golden brown on the outside. And if you want an even crispier quesadilla, I definitely recommend frying them up on the stovetop. All 4 of these broccoli recipes turned out fabulous. I want y'all to comment below which one of these 4 you are going to make this weekend. Is it going to be the cheddar broccoli fritter or the broccoli cheddar breakfast quiche? Or don't forget about that pesto broccoli quesadilla, or my personal favorite, that copycat Panera broccoli cheese soup. All 4 of these broccoli dishes are delicious and super easy to make. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.